This is Radicalize Me. You can find us on YouTube. The username is Radicalize Me 5380. That's the one they gave me. Uh, and yeah, we talk politics, we talk socialism, we talk labor, and that's a big part of why I have these two lovely guests with me today. We've got Brandon Griffin and uh, John Rivera, or JR, um, from the Workers' Party of Massachusetts. Uh, and you guys are both running for office. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So, what is it, Brandon? You're running for U.S. Senate, right?
Yep, I'm running for U.S. Senate, of course, in Massachusetts, incumbent Elizabeth Warren. And we've, you know, been going pretty hard at that side. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. How's it been going? I know, like, I was in the meeting where you were kind of laying it out, and it was like, it's doable, but there's a lot to do. How is it going?
It's going well. And yes, there's a ton to do. The biggest barrier, of course, is ballot access. We need to gather 10,000 good signatures for a statewide candidate. And it's a daunting number, but at the same time, we do have experience. In 2022, we ran an auditor candidate that was Nick Giannone, and we started a little bit late on that campaign, and we got it together. It was that summer of where it was like 85 degrees for 6 weeks, and that's
Oh,
what.
Jesus.
Yeah, and we were outside, as often as we could while still working our full-time jobs and attending whatever committees we're on. So
Yeah.
if we got through that, we can get through this. We have more people, we have a wider range, we have further distance with the growth of Western Mass, which John represents. And we're already out there. It's just a lot of work, and we want to get the signatures done as soon as possible, because it's not glamorous, it's not fun.
Right.
When you ask people to help, you can just hear the internal groan, and we get it,
Yeah.
it's just but the campaign is going well, I believe. I like seeing the growth and having a statewide candidate. If nothing else, every single voter sees our name on the ballot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you gotta, people gotta know who you are in order to,
Right.
for all of this to go anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And what was I gonna? So, JR, you're running for what, a state senate position, or?
Yeah, I'm running for state senate of the 2nd Hampshire and Hampden district in Western Massachusetts. That covers a couple cities out here, predominantly like Westfield and Holyoke, city where I'm from, Holyoke, where it has predominantly people of color, people below the federal poverty level.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the one that I'm running through. My opposition will be, or the person I'm challenging is Senator John Velas from Westfield. For years, the city of Holyoke hasn't had representation, surprisingly. A city that's full of poverty, a city that's full of people of color in this race. And yet Westfield and other cities that are predominantly, homeowners, middle-class people, even higher class individuals, get, kind of have had representation for quite some time. So that's throwing my hat in the ring.
Yeah. Well, so are you saying they haven't had representation is in like one of their own running, or like just are they like outside the district somehow, or?
Yeah, Holyoke is inside the district of the 2nd Hampshire and Hampden out here.
Yeah.
But it just hasn't had anybody run, from my understanding, from my recollection
Okay.
as well, in the years that this position was created. So Yeah, not really too much of a surprise there. People of color and people from below the federal poverty level not getting representation in these big seats. Working class people, and even people who represent these working class interests. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's no mistake that um people in the people in poverty especially, uh don't like aren't told these things. Like they aren't told like you can run for office. Like you that's like how leadership's supposed to work. It can actually just come from your community. Um and yeah, I'm sure that's no accident. And the like JR, I've always like admired your approach to socialism because it's very social. Like you're very active in speaking to people and taking these real actions. um so yeah, I think that's a really important thing, and I'm I've been hearing about the Workers' Party for several years since I've been in Boston, and it's good to see you guys are you know, really starting to flex.
I appreciate it. I got some
That's
I've got some music playing outside, so I'll
Oh,
let Brandon take that before they once they
oh
go.
no, that's all right. Yeah, no, it's been good. So real quick too, just our electoral history. The party it's what's called a political designation in Massachusetts, and I believe many other states. Um, of course, there's the two major parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. In
not familiar.
Massachusetts, yeah, who are those guys? Um, and then in Massachusetts, also the Green Party still has official party status. They kind of they clung to it last year. They hit a little bit over 3% in one of their races. And the Libertarian Party, which is a mess, but they still have party status. Um,
Yeah.
Many that I know that were involved with them, well, not involved, but some people that do identify as as a as a libertarian, you just kind of want to nudge them and go, "No, you're an anarchist. You're not a libertarian." But then there
Right.
was a split, and it's just a mess. And up in New Hampshire, the Libertarian Party is pushing child labor. So I mean, they're literally
Jesus.
pushing it as a talking point, not just being coy about it. They're saying we want child
Right.
labor. So a lot of
Jesus.
people have left that party, and I don't see them holding on to status.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because I don't know if it happened recently, but I wasn't aware until recently. Because I think I was looking for like who's on the primary ballots for the Democrats, and it was there was like an image on the article where they like held up these like placards for each party, but it was the Democrats, Republicans, and Libertarians. I was like, what the hell? Like, I
Yep.
live in a state with an official Libertarian Party.
Yeah. They yeah, they were okay for now. There's a fella named Kevin Reed. He's pretty cool, and I believe he's part of the split. The people that left the party. Don't quote me on that. Um, but yeah, we need to we want to hit that. It's a 3% voting threshold to give you official party status. And that opens up a lot of opportunities that political designations currently don't hold. The biggest thing being you can set up official town committees.
Okay.
So, and official town committees, somewhat like being in a local, it's more accessible to a lot of people. Um, I think the political designation position is a bit ableist because there are people that don't drive there, and some people don't drive, some people have this disability or this anxiety or whatever it is that prevents them from attending somewhere that's close to them. But if something was in their town, they would absolutely show up.
Mhm.
So the town
Yeah.
committee piece is really important. And I do think it's problematic the way that it currently is, but it is what it is, and we're just going to beat the system instead of complain about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah, I mean it's weird on the voter registration because I just re-registered to be a member of the Workers' Party. But
Good.
yeah. I messaged JR actually. I was having a bit of an identity crisis, but I was like, no, it's time. It's time. But yeah, yeah. It's yeah, I mean, no, it's easy to miss was what I was going to say. It's like, because you can be a party and a designation, or say, independent or no party and do a designation. But yeah, it's like, people will see the party and be like, yeah, that's how it works. And I don't know what a designation is. So never mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
Um,
didn't even know what it was. I had to have someone explain it to me because
yeah.
it's like it's just in this. Everyone does everything on their phone, and when
Right.
you go to register, you're not going onto your desktop and to the secretary. You're going on your phone, and you have to click and then click, go to the drop down, and you see this list of. I mean, some of them are pretty funny. We have a pirate
Yeah.
party and a, um, SP USA, I believe, is in there still.
Yep.
They haven't run candidates in a long time, but we did have a meeting with the Socialist Party of Southern New Hampshire. Some cool cats up there, and it's good to keep. I mean, Massachusetts and New Hampshire are conjoined twins, along with Rhode Island, and then out west New York.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Well, the
yeah, it's kind
reason,
of like the former like Massachusetts and New York territories or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And it's and we've talked about this offline a little bit. We try our very best to just shuck any sectarian whatever. I don't have time, and the working class doesn't have time to listen to people debate the 1% difference that someone who may say that they're a Trotskyist or whatever, a tanky, and I think those are terms that I think are not even worth throwing around right now. We're all
Yeah.
socialists. We want the same thing.
Yeah.
If we want to bicker and have boxing matches, we can do that later.
Right. Well, especially because like if you read Marx and you read Lenin and all these people, you realize like, yeah, well, these like designations of socialism grew out of like specific moments and the needs
Yeah.
of the people in that place. So like it's silly for I mean there's some value, but like yeah, it's a little silly for us to be like I'm a Marxist Leninist, I'm a Maoist. It's like what I don't know what that means really.
the working class doesn't really care about those terms quite yet. They will in
Yeah.
the future, but where we're at right now, the biggest thing that we call for is for socialists to run, right? Get your name out there, get the program out there, get your ideas out there. Whether you're in the Socialist Workers' Party, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, you run candidates, phenomenal. That it's a part of who we are as a workers' party. That's kind of like our very anti-sectarian approach to these things. That's why we keep communication with all these wonderful kind of organizations, even though we don't necessarily agree on the odds and the ends, but nonetheless we agree on the same future as it stands, and we try to build for that future through all the petty disagreements, which there aren't really too much when you're out there on the streets, when you're out there on the
Absolutely.
picket lines, when you're out there in the rallies, when you're out there organizing for people that necessitate organizing, whether that's in tenant union organizing or what's going on in Palestine currently, or even the stuff that's going on in labor, which there's always something going on, especially today.
Yeah. No, totally. And not that we shouldn't talk about socialism because obviously I call myself that for a reason, but like, yeah, I like the name Workers' Party because that's something people understand. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a worker. I work. Yeah. Like, and words like socialism and communism and Marxism meant very different things to people like 100 years ago, when those were like the big part, the big small parties. Um, so I think it's the right angle to go for.
Yeah, and just a little bit on that. I mean, when it comes down to it, right? Our workers' interests really represented as it stands, and so that's kind of like the calling of the name. If you're a worker out there, if you're in a union, if you're not in a union, seek out the Workers' Party. You might not necessarily agree with all these, ideas, but sit down and talk with us, have a conversation with us. We're not, going to bite at you. We're not going to bark at you. I'd be happy to explain not only like my goals, my strategy, my tactics, our goals, our strategies, and our tactics as a program, as a party specifically, but as well as how will we get there, right? And how statistically it's been proven, not only with the struggles of the 1900s, but even the struggles in the 21st century, how labor has helped kind of meet the needs of the people in that sector. And no surprise, the people that are fighting are those at the bottom, right?
Right. And yeah, I mean, this might kind of go right along with, uh, putting workers in the name, but like we're really taught in this society not to identify as a member of a group or a class like workers or proletariat or
Mhm.
bourgeoisie or whatever it is. People really want to like not see uh people as these labels, but like I think that's a really important thing for Americans to learn if we're gonna get out of this, you know.
Right.
Uh yeah. So how old is the Workers' Party?
It's very young. It started during the beginning of the pandemic. There were, I believe, 5 original members, and they they got it they got it together. They got official designation status and managed to get a candidate on the ballot for the first year of the party's existence, which I think was it was a sort of a sign of things to come. If growth happened, then I mean that was a good example. They got the designation, and then they got Dominic Giannone on the ballot for state rep in his district in Weymouth.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
And
since
then,
then we've grown, right?
yep. And then 2 years later, we had three candidates. We had Laura Saylor for state senate. The opponent there was bootlicker liberal Paul Feeney. I ran in my district, which is Plymouth 7th, and the incumbent was Representative Allison Sullivan. She's a Republican. Her father is the former DA or a former U.S. attorney, I believe. We're both from Abington, and it was a really interesting race because the Democrats in this area don't they don't always run candidates. So she has this opportunity to waltz into office unopposed, and I mean that's unacceptable to me. And the
Yeah.
Democrats didn't run a candidate, and I actually got 25% of the vote. So in addition to being a really cool experiment to see how a socialist and an entrenched Republican, or even if it just had been a socialist and an entrenched liberal, it doesn't matter. I'm not here to talk about Allison Sullivan's politics. I mean, that's she does her thing, and there's no animosity there. Um, but my town is where Jeff Deal is from too. So you've got this the crazy far right, and I'm very open with my politics here. I don't pull that coy kind of oh, I believe this, I believe that. I'm a socialist and everything that comes with it. Here's my here's my here's my party's program, bring it. And so,
Yeah. I'm a Stalinist. I'm gonna take your toothbrush.
yep. Yeah. And it even comes down to community events, so you show up and, like people think that like socialists are like Thanos, it's like hiding in the background. And then it's like, oh, it's just a nice guy, So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that is important, and I was going to ask you about like running against unopposed um, candidates, because I think that's a huge part of the problem in this country is people not actually having choices. Like we talk
Right.
about it so much, but it's like, yeah, uh, there are these places where like Republicans won't run a candidate or Democrats won't run a candidate because the other party seems to have such a stronghold. And it's like, well, yeah, because the Republicans and Democrats are not going to like offer anything new. Um, so I have thought for a while, and I feel like, the Green Party and stuff don't really do this very well, that like, yeah, socialists should go for like non-voters or people who only have a Republican running in their district or whatever.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
There should be multiple parties on every ballot in every district, whether that's the Workers' Party or, if, as John said, if PSL decides to run candidates, or if SPUS, awesome, good. There's no we'll support you if you say you're workers, but that's the goal is to let everybody know that we're not here cosplaying, and we're not trying just to stir things up. We generally think, and I believe can convince people that it's too effed up right now to not be aggressively campaigning, running as many candidates, along with all of the other things that you should be doing.
Yeah.
Supporting mass movements, organizing protests when necessary. We've targeted the police. We've helped to stand in solidarity with the Palestinians without stepping over the Palestinian activists, which I see sometimes as, to me is that's a problematic thing. I know some people may disagree with that, saying, oh, you should be side by side. It's like, no, we should support hard in the second row. That's my opinion.
Okay.
And we've done that very well. And I have to shout out to Workers' World Party too, because they've been excellent with us in the Boston Coalition for Palestine, along with many other orgs.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Nice.
go into any other, any person's home and tell them how to clean or
Yeah.
how to cook. You wouldn't go into
Right.
anybody's workplace and tell them how to work better or more efficiently, right? So why would you do the same with Palestinians or people who, actually live in these scenarios,
Right.
sit down, have a conversation with them, ask them what they need and see what you can do about it, right? Organize around these people and their needs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, it's a I guess, yeah, kind of surprising part of socialism once I actually started to learn about it, um, is that idea of self-determination is such a big thing, and it's a little, runs a little contrary to what we've been told. And it's like, I thought it was like Stalin, like forcing everyone to do stuff. And it's like, well, it's obviously it's taken many forms and things happen, but like, um, yeah, this idea of self-determination is this pretty incredible thing where um, you let people decide for themselves how to like organize themselves and how to run their society. But you're just giving that choice to more of the people. And so it's not like, oh yeah, the 10 richest guys among you will decide how to run things. Right. It's like, well, no, it's just, we're just expanding that. We're democratizing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's something when it comes to land back, or like, I mean, it kind of is land back, but like the Palestinians,
Mm-hmm.
people get so worried about like, well, what's going to happen if you give them control? And it's like, well, they'll probably try to fix all the shit that we messed up.
That's exactly
Right.
what has occurred, right, within the last like 30 years that they've tried to rebuild, right? We've many countless organizers, many countless socialists, and even just like liberals have tried to fundraise for Palestine, and they do amazing stuff with that money. Hospitals, schools, homes, rebuild, right? Most of those destroyed, today.
Yeah.
And
Then we
so
blow it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Taxpayer funding blows these things up. And so we have enough money to set aside for assistance. We have more than enough money to not only for to take care of our own, but to take care of the people that are our own people, right? I mean, we're all human, you know what I mean?
Right.
We live in different nations, but that doesn't mean, we can repair what we broke, right? We can, actually take some humility in for once in our entire, essentially nation with all these wars that went on. We can take a step back, run our own candidates, our working class candidates that actually represent the needs of the people, not only in this country, but overseas and abroad, right?
Right.
And it's really not that hard to do. The 1%, capitalist cronies, the people who want to lower your retirement age from 77 to 70, like Nikki Haley. These people are not our friends, right?
No.
The business suits, they are not our friends. Even the liberal kind of um, cronies who dress up in suits and flaunt their identities. They don't
Mhm.
represent your interests. You take a look at the balance sheet, such as in the case in Holyoke, right? We have our very first Puerto Rican mayor, who is a liberal. And what is he doing? He's lining the pockets of the police and the police union. Every
Yeah.
year, we see it all over the municipalities of Massachusetts. It's not just Holyoke. The police are getting an over bloated budget, similar with the military. $900 billion goes to the Pentagon each year, and it would only take like a couple $1 billion to really take a look at homelessness and try to solve it. It might not solve it all right, that $3 billion a year, but I
Yeah.
tell you what, it'll go a long ways. And similar to the police, we can do major measures in each municipality, such as creating public safety committees where that money that is used unwisely in the police departments and municipalities can actually go to creating survival centers for those that need it, laundromats for those that need it, um, you know, uh, lab laboratories, right, washing stations, resources for those that need it, the veterans, the homeless that need it, the young kids that are essentially, straight out of, school, high school, and need those resources because, it's just not getting easier, right? Inflation is getting much worse. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And these are the things that, it takes to solve crime at the institutional level, as opposed to, keeping crime going at the institutional level, which, as we've seen, not only studies and statistics have shown and proven that the police keep exacerbating crime. They keep thriving off of crime, right? And it's similar to a lot of these nonprofits that they don't necessarily want to solve a problem. They want to keep the problem going under this guise of progressivism, right? And it's same with the police departments with their new technologies. And it's very how do I say? It's very bedazzling, right? It can confuse you when you're kind of presented these new things and be like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. But when you really take a look at it and you talk with your neighbors, and you ask, how can this go wrong? Right? Such as in the case of the shot spotter technology. That's not only in Holyoke, but also in other municipalities in Massachusetts, which track shots within the community. And most of those are misfires. And it basically rates lower class neighborhoods with higher federal poverty levels on a rating level from 1 to 5. And what is that going to do to the police officers when they step into that neighborhood? The new police officers that step into that neighborhood, well, they're going to be on edge, right? They're going to, have their kind of like hand on that gun and be ready to act at a moment's notice. And, we could use a lot less of that in American society. We could use a lot more diffusion, a lot more calm, less aggressive techniques in solving these things at the institutional level, as opposed to being on edge, which is, essentially what the police department does all the time. They don't solve the crimes, they keep them going. And sometimes they even engage in those crimes.
They
We're no stranger to
commit
that.
some of the worst crimes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, for all the bloviating over like the fentanyl crisis and like it's coming over the border and all this shit. I don't know. Every couple of weeks, I see a story of like a police department being busted for having like a major fucking fentanyl ring. It's like,
Yeah.
it seems like, you know, you're worried about the wrong group of like unaccountable people. Um,
I keep the motto in Holyoke, use them and abuse them, but don't lose them. Since that's a Holyoke Police Department's motto, I feel like, because we've lost, or they've lost, so many guns. They've used them, they've abused them, but it's a big problem when they lose them. I tell you what, a lot of
oh my God.
officers have gotten strict retaliation from their own union from that. And
Oh my
mind you,
God.
some of the things that happen, it isn't from low level kind of police officers. It's from the top of the top. We have a lieutenant right now that just resigned, I believe, from my understanding, Manny the Fox Reyes, and he was in charge of recruiting young cadets into the police force. He was also in charge of the police reports from citizens, which 3 out of 97, I believe, from my understanding and my recollection, only went through the proper protocol process, only went through review. 3 out of 97 complaints from citizens. And this officer, this lieutenant, I think he became captain for a little bit. He just recently, over the last year, was essentially he went to court for a sexual misconduct case of two female officers under him. And so this guy was in charge of not only recruitment but complaints, right? And this is no stranger to not only Holyoke. This is a systemic issue. What's going on in America, right?
Yeah.
You have in Massachusetts that we've been trying to audit the state legislature in a while. It's never passed. You also have in the case of auditing the police, and in most municipalities, it passes, but who audits the police? You have to take a look at the fine print. The people that audit the police are companies that have former police lieutenants and captains under their wing, such as in the case of Holyoke, where this company, I believe from my understanding, from my recollection, CRC, I forget the full name, they conducted an audit. 90% of their employees that conducted this audit were former police officers, and they never picked up what happened to Manny the Fox Reyes or any other things that went on deep level. So these things require not only a deeper look, a deeper conversation about these things, and deeper solutions about these things, right? American people, isn't stupid. They're not stupid. They understand these things for what they are. Many people, support the police, and I understand that, but you got to take a look at these things for what they are. And as it stands, these people are committing crimes institutionally, like they are profiting off of committing crimes. So we have to take a good look at that and look for alternatives that actually solve crime statistically. And studies have shown, that survival centers, harm reduction places, resources for kids that are straight out of school, at below the federal poverty line, that actually helps, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so crazy. Again, you said like, people support police and um, it's just a matter of like people have police officers in their family and, neighbors and whatever. Um, but yeah, on the whole, this is the problem. And the only thing that the Democrats and Republicans do is dump more money into it, as if like there's some like strategic like planning problem with with police that's causing all of this. um and for almost everything else, people will go, oh, you can't just throw money at the problem. And it's like, well, that's really what we're doing.
We're
And
literally throwing money at the literal problem.
yeah, yeah.
And
And no matter what the main parties say, they that's what they do. Like they're just always kind of default to these same kind of fixes.
yeah, a phony reform. It's and that's one thing that I think it becomes part of your identity to have to play, just as a citizen, to play some sort of role where, okay, now you define yourself as X, Y, or Z. That type of person supports the police. That type of person does this. And it's not an insult to them to say, well, you're thinking about this the wrong way. But it's also not an insult to say, look, you don't fall for the propaganda. They love playing the victim. It's the cops. It's their go-to. We put our lives on the line for you. Blah blah blah. All that bullshit. Um, but it's probably half of every municipality's budget. So when you look at it from an outside point, you go, do I want another cop, or maybe bring art back to school? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hire an art teacher and a music teacher and fire a cop. Good. I mean, as an abolitionist, I say fire all of them. But to make a point with someone on a one-to-one level, you have to say, do you want your kid to be funneled right from their graduation date into some, conglomerate warehouse? Or not that that's a bad thing, but that they have programs where they put kids, they call them paths. And I don't know for sure, but I believe a lot of them are funded by the local businesses to funnel them right to work. Yeah. There's one here in Whitman Hanson called the Panther Path. And I believe it's funded by some petty bougie stockyards or mechanics. I don't want to throw names out because I'm not 100% sure, but I will look it up and then I will confirm it myself. But just stuff like that. I mean, but anything pitched as positive, if it's sold right, the people will buy it. And it doesn't mean they're stupid. It just means that they're so bogged down with everything that this system has done to them that they don't have time to investigate things. I get exhausted trying to look at everything, but you have to.
Yeah.
And you have to express to people that the words that you've heard about socialism and communism and Marxism have been bastardized in the West. They don't mean what the mainstream thinks it means. It doesn't mean the government does stuff.
Right.
It's about you and the rest of pretty much everybody, that you're in the same class and you need to accept that and be aware of it so you can own your own shit and you can vote with people as equals without being sold this bill of goods over and over and over and over again by the same politicians, and all they care about is winning the election.
Right. No, absolutely. And well, oh yeah, they also like people will see a solution pitched to them and they're like, oh, okay, well, we need a solution. And if they're not given other options, if they're not shown like, here's how we would do it on the left, it's like, well, yeah, they're gonna go for like the person who's boldly saying, yeah, we're gonna fix it.
Yep. And it never gets fixed.
Right.
Yeah, and to any of those people, if you see someone in a business suit, think twice about who they represent, right? If you see someone who has been a Democrat for years, who has taken millions, and even in the case of a couple of them, billions of dollars from companies like Raytheon and many other different companies, think twice about who they represent.
Yeah.
I rest assured, they they are not looking out for any of us. They might be the best of the greater two evils, whatever they are. In the case of, Brandon's campaign, it seems like that there's only one evil, and that's
Yeah.
the Democrats, including
Right.
the Republicans as well, even in my race. So it takes a broader, really, that's what we ask for people. Take a broader retrospective look at who these people are, right? The people that want to lower your retirement age when the life expectancy age in America is 70, I think it's like
It's
74,
77 or
77 for
yeah,
phone's sinking.
it's
depending
different for
on,
men and
right?
women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they want to lower that to 70. So you only have, 7 years of your life to
Right.
enjoy.
Yeah.
So, take a look at these things, right? And come and ask us questions, right? Our
Right.
Facebook DMs are open, workersparty at gmail.com is all open for questions. We'd be happy to get back to you, reach out to us. And we'd love to, answer any questions that we have with the time that we have with everybody.
Yep. Yeah,
Totally.
we love to engage with with people. I mean, everybody has their own, most people don't wake up in the morning and go, "Oh, I'm a bad person." you know, but the second you walk out the door, you've got everybody looking at you, and half of them are thinking, "Oh, they are a bad person." Um, it's easy to judge groups of people, and I won't even dignify the two parties' differences as giving a label, to say he's an Xer and she's a Yer, but we all know what I'm talking about. And it's hard to break through and say to them, you both are supporting the same thing, and you're mad at each other because of what? Because of bumper stickers, fucking
Right.
bullshit, flags,
Yeah, wedge
it's
issues and
yep,
social,
things that
yeah.
don't matter. Yeah.
Right. Things that even if they do, like, trans rights and that kind of thing is like, well, yeah, that matters, but like we're creating problems by being like, oh, well, in sports you can't have a fucking, it's like, shut up. Like, what you, like, two girls, were on a
Right.
swim team in Ohio or Utah or something, and it's insane.
Yeah, this is a
And
part
it
of the system as is, right? They're trying to get us
Right.
to fight each other. It's simple as that.
Right. Yeah. And, uh, people will say, like, oh, the Democrats have gone so far left on this and that. And it's like, they don't really even talk about it. They don't want to, like, fight the Republicans on that.
Nope.
So they kind of just do nothing. Um, and so what I wanted to, first of all, I can't remember his name, this African socialist leader who said, you know, the U.S. also has a one party system, but in classic American extravagance, they have two of them.
Yeah.
So that's essentially, yeah. It's at the end of the day, um, the same shit happens. But yeah, so this idea a minute ago, we were talking about how these problems don't get fixed because it's just kind of like the same, like slapping the same label on all their branding. Uh, but that that creates this attitude in people, and this is pervasive, that, oh, that's just how it goes, and like, oh, it's complicated, they're working on it, and people, it, you know kind of have to be shaken out of uh, uh the hypnosis of that, and to say, like, look, like, where has it gotten us? It's they haven't fixed it. Some of it's
Yeah.
gotten worse. And that it's complicated thing is such a you know um just pervasive, like
It's it's
sneaky
ins-
little, like,
it's insulting.
yeah,
It's
yes,
insulting to the gen to it's insulting to liberals and conservatives.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
and I'm not afraid to say that, to say, that they're being being duped, and it just really sucks because the people that are doing it are just fucking heartless. They don't care about their constituents. It's basically theater. It's
Yeah.
about as close to not being real as it gets to being a full puppet government, which really we know basically it may as well be. It's puppet adjacent. These people
Yeah.
are soulless and they're callous and they don't care about you, but they love your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure
It's
do.
really disgusting. Like, right now it's become so stark just with, uh, it's the Democrats with Israel, Republicans too. And, Republicans also with like Russia and shit. It's like, yeah, uh, never mind multinational corporations, but like these other fucking countries just literally own our fucking Congress.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, this is just insane. Like these people are not um, there for you. But speaking of Democrats, what's your race been like, Brandon? And similar situation probably for you, JR, on a smaller scale. But what's this race against Warren been like? Is there a Republican challenger? Are there other candidates?
Oh, sure. Yep. There are, as of yesterday, I believe there are 4 Republicans set to primary. I don't know all of their names. I know one of the gentlemen's last name is Antonellis. There's another individual. Dr. Shiva, I believe, and
Oh,
yeah, and he runs
love
as a
Dr. Shiva.
he runs as an independent.
Yeah.
And there's a libertarian candidate, Louis Marino, and it's myself and Liz Warren. So far, there's been very little hostility from the liberals, and it we never seem to run into problems with the conservatives. I mean, it isn't because we're chummy, but it's just I believe that the Democrats, and when I say Democrats, I mean the party, and this is something that I want to clarify. When we say de Democrats, we're not talking about voters.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
offends people. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your shitty leaders.
Right.
Like, and I'll call you a liberal, and then your party are the Democrats.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that much hostility, at least on my end, but I anticipate a little bit. But I mean, it's really the same as if when the Green Party will run a higher level candidate, like Jill Stein, and the Democrats are so smug and they're so arrogant that they think that the best move is to just ignore your existence. And if we can put a mega dent in Warren's numbers in a statewide race in Massachusetts, the state that most of the country looks at and goes, "Oh yeah, Massachusetts is the most left," which is nonsense. But
Yeah.
we're in the United States. We're not left. It's
Right.
impossible. You can't be in the United States and call your state left wing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
on the surface level, the CNN, Fox level, Massachusetts is the most left. And if we put a decent ding in Warren's numbers and say Mr. Marino puts a decent ding in whatever Republican wins, it matters. And official party status is the goal, but it's not the ceiling. That's the least that I want to happen.
Right.
Um, I've been uncomfortable asking for money. I don't enjoy getting, like, I don't even like to get gifts from my family on Christmas. I just get uncomfortable, but it's necessary. So I've settled in. I've made sure that I have not been bashful, no coy word, word acrobatics. Like, we just throw it in your face, big chalkboard. Yes, we are socialists.
Yeah.
And here's my program. you want to look at it, it's going to be the same as JR's
Yeah.
because we're on a shared platform. We're not just these individuals with this ambition, with this cool hip new thing. We run on the program or we run under a different party.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. So then,
internal solidarity sends that message too, because it isn't just, JR is going to see things in Holyoke that I don't see, and I'm going to see things in Whitman Abington that he doesn't see. But none of those things will fix the system. It's just something that people that you're near will identify with. Our programs are shared. The whole party,
right.
we run on one program.
Yeah. Which is, yeah, I do think that is strong messaging, and um, it's a good program. um, uh, so, oh yeah, so JR, I don't know if sorry if I'm repeating stuff, but did you say that your election is one of these like unopposed Republicans or something?
Yeah, mine is unopposed as of now from my understanding. And yeah, super. I mean, super exciting stuff. When I guess not super exciting. To see that it's the working class has to kind of rely on just one guy running for this position.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
it's super exciting when someone comes up and represents the working class. And I'm not here representing my own interests. If I was, I mean, I'd be a Democrat or a
exactly.
Republican.
Yep.
This isn't
yeah,
like this isn't the best work, the best field to
right.
be in. I'm a
Mhm.
trade worker, I'm blue collar. I don't make enough money. I'm in a
Right.
union, but I still don't make enough money. And I assure you, I'm not looking for an easy buck or an easy way out. I'm looking to
Yeah,
represent, my working class, right? Our working class together, our best interests, main goals. And so, as it stands, I don't think that John Velas does not represent the working class. As it stands, he might represent Westfield and the homeowners, the landlords, the cops pretty effectively, without a doubt. But that is not the working class, right? The
right.
working class is those who are closest to the work, right? The capital, the thing that builds our nation, the thing that builds the country and builds overseas, right? And who does that? Well, I mean, cops don't really build anything, from my understanding. Landlords
No.
don't. The people that they hire, they build stuff.
Right.
Right.
I represent them. That's what we represent. That we want to represent graciously. We'd be more than honored to do so. And as it stands, my the person that I'm opposing, hasn't had the best track record for supporting the working class. When you take a look at his votes regarding Medicare and anything regarding which, it's been very saddening to see. No nay votes on certain things. In regards to Palestine, take a deep look at that. What does John Velas support, right? Well, he recently co-signed a bill in support and complete solidarity with Israel's actions against Hamas, when in reality,
Yeah.
it's been against the Palestinian people.
Yeah.
If you mourned one baby a day, um, as it stands, those babies that have died in Palestine, those children that have died in Palestine, it would take you 33 years to mourn every single baby today, right? And
Yeah.
so for someone to support a place that completely annihilates a nation, a race, a peoples, who are just incredibly humble and incredibly kind. I have friends in Palestine, in Gaza City, in the Strip. I have friends outside. I have friends who have family in Lebanon and in Palestine themselves. They are one of the most gracious people to exist, right? And they deserve to exist. It's really not that hard to say. These people deserve to exist. They've been in this land for years before anyone else,
Yeah.
decades and even millenniums before anybody else.
Yep.
And
Thousands.
they're not looking to hurt anybody, right? They
Right.
just want to live. That's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's such a long history, and it's people don't realize it's a multi-faith history, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this history, but like when you talk about how the two-state solution has always been like a grift against the Palestinians, um, you know, we've been hearing more about the one state, like we should have one state there that's Palestine, and it is a multi-faith democracy.
Mhm.
Um, and people are like, oh, how's that ever gonna? It's like, because it's always been a multi-faith region that I, you know, don't think had this level of violence before. And you know, Israel does such a disservice um, to Jewish people in the process, because they conflate their stupid, awful country with Judaism as a whole. And they, you know, when you say that like Israel does not have a right to exist if they're going to do this, then it's like, oh, what, Jews can't have a state, but all these Muslim states? And it's like,
Right.
well, dude, I don't love Muslim theocracies either, but like, you know, if you're going to bomb every country in the vicinity and you want to take all the land, like that's insane. So yeah, that's something I'd encourage people. You know, if you have like your faves in the main two parties, go look at what they're saying or not saying about this. If you know have been even a little concerned about what's happening in Palestine. Um,
Yeah.
but
And and I do truly believe that a lot of uh, to what you were saying about the disservice. I mean, I'm not of the Jewish faith, but it, you know, they want to put out this propaganda that only people that are from Israel are the only people that are Jewish. They don't talk about people in Poland or Russia,
right,
Eastern. They're
where are all
United
these
States,
settlers coming from?
Canada, Canada, Palestine, because there are Jews there too, and they work it so they have an easy out. So if you criticize them, all of a sudden you're the anti-Semite, and it's just nonsense.
Yeah,
Um, it's the complete opposite. You know, it's I'm just pro person. It killing people isn't normal, and you shouldn't have
yeah,
to explain this to the world. Not normal to
yeah,
bomb people for land you kind of want. It's
right,
fucking ridiculous,
yeah.
really.
And people
And
in a pen, like they're in a pen that they can't
yeah,
leave, and you're
they're
dropping
kettled.
2,000 pound bombs. Yeah, like it's like, you know, I don't want to compare tragedies, but it's like, you know, we talk about all these different genocides and horrible things that happen, and it's like, yeah, but like Ukraine has an army and the backing of the US. You know what I mean? It's like it's terrible what's happening there too. Um, but yeah, the concentration and the fucking like the hate, the open hatred against the Palestinians is really, really awful.
It's
Um,
wildly ugly. Yeah,
yeah.
and you know, to shout out against my opponent, she's all about it. I mean, Elizabeth Warren is a war hawk. She always has been.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But but you know, she talks. She's great on the mic. I will not diss. She has mic skills. I won't diss that. She can convince everyone that she's a darling of the progressive Democrats, along with Bernie Sanders and AOC and all those clowns. Um, and it's easy to get duped by them.
Right.
and and then you have this weird like side opposition from like the Jimmy Dories of the world and Jackson Hinkle, and they push this phony left libertarian populism. But
Yeah.
really, it's like, dude, you're a fucking podcaster, and you found a good angle.
Right.
But unlike, yeah, I mean, there are good podcasts, and then there are the Jimmy Dories of the world and the horrible Young Turks. It's
Yeah, and
like,
Oh God. Yeah.
just to switch it up and bring it to
sure.
perspective of labor as well. I mean,
Yeah.
you take a look at all these relatively this is a relatively new thing, but you know, labor has decided to form a coalition to end the ceasefire or to start a ceasefire in Palestine, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, you know that comes with its own nuances, but when you take a look at these things, right, labor is calling for these things. Labor that has been deteriorated and has been corrupted by, pretty big bureaucrats in labor, and they are even calling for a ceasefire. Elizabeth Warren has not called for a ceasefire yet. So when you take a look at all these like things, it really brings into perspective that these people do not represent us, right?
Yeah.
And even if they do call for a ceasefire, they just like Bernie Sanders, they always come into it with like these weird kind of takes of how that
Yeah.
would look like with its own like nuances that aren't really all
Right.
that good.
Yeah. How could you have a permanent ceasefire with Hamas?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
ridiculous.
it's silly.
Yeah. Well, because I thought
It's yeah,
Warren had.
it's
Oh,
sorry,
sorry. Go
sorry.
ahead.
No, no. I was just gonna say it isn't our place to judge someone else's revolution or really
Right.
self 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 defense. Really, that it's not my place to tell the Palestinians who can do what to protect them from the monstrous Netanyahu regime, not the
Yeah.
Jewish people. Just
Right.
that regime they're monsters.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
It,
mean, like, you know, in front of that, like to front load this statement, like the Israeli government is a million times worse than Hamas. But like, people will talk about Hamas and they'll be like, how can you be in support of this, like, right wing fucking Islamist terrorist group? First of all, none of us really know that well about like what they believe and everything, because Americans don't like study these things. But yeah, to the extent that they are, I'm like, yeah, dude, I would love to support like the PLO or any of these more secular, more left like um groups that were fighting for Palestinian resistance. But the fucking Israel and the US like pushed all of them out and supported Hamas. So like
Mhm.
that's all that's left to fight the Palestinian resistance. And again, to say like I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, I'm with them, but they shouldn't be Hamas. Like it's like that it's useless, especially
yep.
right now. If they form their own like oppressive theocracy, then we'll talk. But that's later. That's like not something to put on people actively being exterminated
Yep.
at all.
And even with these like politicians such as Elizabeth Warren, many of them, like have now kind of like agreed or have supported in words a ceasefire. And
Yeah,
what does that really mean? You take a look at a candidate, and again, I'm just using Elizabeth Warren as an example. It's a lot of these left liberals, if you really
right.
want to call them that, that have essentially stated things like a ceasefire is working. Both parties need to come together to support a ceasefire. Yet, what have any of these people have done towards trying to push through that? None of them have
Right.
championed any of these bills to call for a ceasefire. None of them have done these things. The hard work that
Yeah.
it takes. They might support it in a tweet or in a Facebook post,
Yep.
right? But in
Yeah.
reality, when the going gets going, they seem to kind of like hide behind the back doors. We've been out in the streets of Springfield practically like almost every other week, knocking on Elizabeth Warren's door to essentially, call for a ceasefire and support, at the very least, start championing an effort towards starting a ceasefire, and nothing has been
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember she
Cambridge
was.
too. Cambridge too. She
Oh
won't
yeah.
even acknowledge that people are at her house. I mean, it's more than
Mhm.
once a week,
Yeah.
and it's her home in Cambridge. She won't even acknowledge the the uh the the protesters there, whether it's PSL that is organizing it or Palestinian House, but usually it's just the broad coalition for Palestine. It doesn't even matter who it is. She's not acknowledging that and Elizabeth Warren isn't stupid. She knows exactly what people think. He just doesn't seem to care.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird because she was, I think, kind of early on compared to others who to like start creeping towards saying like, yeah, we should humanitarian pause or whatever. And I remember
Yes.
thinking like, it's really pathetic that she's ahead of Bernie on this. Um, and then Bernie did his like safe version of talking about it. And it's like, ugh,
Oh yeah, that
so
was the
disgusted.
yeah, we're going to give you 2 days to survive and run across this border. That's what a humanitarian pause means.
Right.
And they're not going to listen. The
No.
IDF, they're clearly not even respecting what our politicians are saying now, except if one thing were to happen, if Joe Biden called Netanyahu, said, knock it off.
Yeah.
That's it. But can you imagine the turnaround for him if he just picked up the damn phone and said, stop?
Yeah. Yeah. No more bombs.
Yep.
Uh, yeah. It's insane. Uh, my brain is like not working. I just
Right.
immediately forget what I'm thinking.
Oh,
Um,
we're all overloaded.
yeah. um, but yeah. Um, to bring it back to kind of more local stuff. Um, uh, yeah. Uh, what kind of stuff have you guys done with labor, like with unions?
On our end here, we have supported the UAW strike in Mansfield. We supported the Cisco strike in Plimpton. We've been in talks with the Starbucks union, but they're, I believe, in the process, if they haven't already converted over to AFL maybe, or they're thinking about it. But we've done Starbucks solidarity work. I'm not myself in a labor union, so JR might have a little more to add to that. But when strikes come up, we're there. And
Nice.
whether it's after work or on Saturday, if we say something and we don't mean it, we lose credibility, and it's because we actually care that we show up. But I'm sure that John has a deeper take on the labor side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've supported so much within the last 2 years, during and even not during an election cycle, which is, kind of a rarity for both parties to be doing.
Oh yeah.
They seem to only show up when there's an election cycle going on. We supported the Mansfield protests, or the picket line, and supported the UAW in their efforts for better contract negotiations and all the demands that they want to meet, including the even most radical demands that they want. We support those, outright, and incredibly so. We've had amazing conversations with all of them, and most of them, like, had gone up to a couple of our candidates for the past year and said, "Hey, I voted for you," which is,
Yeah.
really phenomenal.
Nice.
Back to UPS, we were getting ready to engage in that struggle heavily, and getting ready to support the UPS. We were in those meetings with UPS Teamsters and many other different organizations on the left, to really get organized around the picket line and support them with overwhelming militancy. And yeah, that was it feels like a couple years ago, but it was the past year. We've supported the WGA, the Writers Guild
Yeah.
of America, as well as I forget the other union, not Yahtzee, the oh, so many
SAG-AFTRA.
acronyms.
Sat.
SAG-AFTRA.
SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, correct. Yeah, we supported them in Boston, out here in Northampton when they came out here to picket. I have a couple friends in SAG-AFTRA and in WGA as well. We went to that picket line, we supported them, and yeah, we supported all their demands, and even had conversations about, what can we do in the future next time, exchange contact info. So how can we basically rally the troops? We've also, participated on smaller strikes and smaller picket lines, which are incredibly important, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about the big hefty unions. It's about the small ones too that just formed or just became a part of a great union, right? And are dealing with their own struggles within that union and outside of the union in the workspace. So out here we've supported preschool teachers in Springfield. And we were on that picket line, oh man, for about 4 days straight, convening there, helping those teachers out. They're incredibly militant. They surprisingly, preschool teachers have the best chants and slogans when it comes down to it. When you think about it, they're teaching kids, they're always singing, and they had the most
Right.
amazing chants on that picket line, and they won what they wanted. Which were
Nice.
pretty big stuff, a better wage, the ability to do something small as like wear yoga pants to work, to be comfortable in their spaces that they work all day long.
Yep.
Yeah.
So and the apparel that they want to work in, obviously it's not inappropriate. It's the apparel that they feel comfortable running around and chasing after children with, right?
Right. Yeah. God forbid
So
the
Yeah.
3-year-olds think they're dressing unprofessionally.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Assigned clothing is just has
yes,
been it's just such
silly.
a weird part
Yeah.
of life.
I can
Like,
understand it in the trade, in the trades, I
Right.
could totally
Yeah.
understand it. You know what I mean? Don't use gloves around a saw. But like,
right.
preschool teachers, absurd. So we
Yeah.
supported them. We brought them hot cocoa, every morning. We're currently engaging in the out here in Holyoke. I'm good friends with the Holyoke teachers. I think it's the Paraprofessionals Association. June Lavelle, who's the president of that association, and I'm having good conversations with her as to how we can kind of bring and rally the troops to whatever she needs. We brought 4-ish members to when they went to city council or school committee and called for better wages, called for the demands that they want because they're going to be entering bargaining session soon, or yeah, bargaining session soon. And TLDR with schools, it really sucks out here in Holyoke. I won't bog, the viewers and listeners too much in the details, but the state, when you're doing really bad in a municipality on testing or state testing, standardized testing like the MCAS, the state can come in and basically receive your school. And what that means is they have all control over the lessons, what the teachers teach, wages, whether it's an increase or
Busing,
decrease of wages,
busing.
busing,
It's
everything.
wild. It's wild. Yeah.
They bring a
Yeah.
superintendent in from some random place in the freaking world to come
Yeah.
in and oversee the district. And
Right.
we've had 4 or 5 state receivers in the last decade or so. So that's how receivership is going for us. But nonetheless, we're working hard through it. The teachers are just incredibly amazing in Holyoke. I came from Holyoke. I was raised here. I was taught coincidentally, that's probably why I'm so radical, is by big shout out to my 9th grade teacher, Gus Morales, who was the president of the Holyoke Teachers Association, who, when standardized testing came through, brought the kids and said, hey, this is what standardized testing is. You guys want to have a say about it, come to school committee. And we all went there and, we talked about how, shitty standardized testing is. You can't take it in your native language, and predominantly, most Holyoke kids are Spanish speakers, and you can't take it in Spanish, and you need that to graduate high school. And so
Yeah.
that's what the teachers out here are battling viciously, hardcore, and militantly. And I'm here to not only rally the troops but support them. And even if I do, win for state for the district, I'd be happy to represent them in any way, in any shape, in any form that I can. And it's the same with Brandon. It's the same with many, many others in different municipalities. We're here to help each other, right? Western Mass, Boston, for the longest time, Western Mass hasn't had support, and Democrats really don't care. The Republicans don't really care about Western Mass.
Yeah.
But the Workers' Party cares about all municipalities, especially those that have had no representation or a lack of representation institutionally. So, I mean, they make it hard for us. So
Yeah.
that's the Holyoke teacher struggle that we're currently trying to engage in. There are a couple other struggles that are going on as well. I know that we engaged in the graduate
Newton, Newton teachers,
Newton
uh,
teachers. Yep.
Andover,
Hmm.
which
Yep.
I believe Brian Leonard is involved with. To my campaign treasurer, Jill, she's MTA, and the MTA, they're holding it down, and I think that they need to be given more credit. I mean, of course, bureaucracy is bureaucracy. I'm not in the union, I don't know, but teachers in Massachusetts need to be withheld to the status that they have had and deserve to have, because when teachers get chopped for cops, that's when the communities should start raising the eyebrow. And if they need a nudge to raise that eyebrow, we're here to do that, because teachers are far more important than cops.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That devastates communities everywhere.
Brutal. It's like
Um,
half and half. School cops is and then there's like 10% for the rest of everything else.
yeah. Yeah. It's nuts. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's great. Like this is what I look for in, in politicians. I guess it's funny to call you guys politicians. You're
Funny to hear
you're
it.
just guys. You're workers.
Funny to hear it.
But yeah, I mean that's what interests me, and that's why, like, it was intriguing to see, like, oh, Bernie Sanders is on a picket line or whatever. He's a pretty big disappointment, but
Good salesman.
the next like step of that is seeing you guys actually showing up, and it's been, for years, every like uh, uh protest and the big Palestine rallies, the small ones I've been to, I always see Workers' Party signs, and that's what matters. Like the party should be, assisting the working class. The party should be of the working class, and it's a symbiotic, like, one grows out of the other, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I love to see that light bulb when I have that conversation, and people, you can naturally get to where we are philosophically all on your own. It's just, and then when that light bulb hits, you have a future of never being able to allow yourself to be happy. But that's a positive thing for the people. When I'm dead and gone and my name is forgotten, I hope anything that I did matters.
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
need I don't need glory. It's
The glory is the
I'm a fading
ascension.
mammal, like all of us.
Yeah, yeah. The glory is the ascension of the working class.
Mhm.
The best I have felt in my life is being part of, an organization that is like working on these things. I'm not part of the one that I'm thinking of anymore, but it's now I'm trying to support the Workers' Party and some of these other projects too. So I'm happy to see you guys out there.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And I that
Yeah, thank
resonates a
you.
lot with me. I mean, the best part of organizing is seeing people become organizers, right? Seeing like
Mhm.
that you're not alone in this. I've helped found 3 tenant organizations, one in Holyoke, one in Northampton, one in Springfield Gardens, that are still thriving, and I'm still in great communication with them. I took a step away from tenant organizing and took a step into labor, but I'm still, there for those comrades wherever they, need me to be. I'm only a phone call away. But the best part is seeing them flourish, seeing meetings happening where there's daycare, seeing meetings that are predominantly full of, women of color, and not full of, like white straight, guys that have the time in the world to do these things. No, it's women, such as in the case of Lyman Terrace Resident Association, Letra, that predominantly speak Spanish, for the
Mm.
longest time, I had and that's true glory right there. It's just being a participant, not even really like, kind of like guiding it, just answering questions if like, oh, what do you think we should do about this? And, I'd kindly, suggest something and they would just take off. You know what I mean? And every now and then, like, they'd go, oh, can you come in to teach us about harm reduction, JR? You know a lot about picking up syringes and helping out the homelessness. We'd love to learn
Mm.
those skills. And I'm always there for that, right? And so that's the true glory of
Yep.
helping out the working classes, giving them, the tools to not only help themselves, but also to take a part of this system and create a better system, And so that's why we're here for them, and we hope that they not only understand that, but also vote in their interests.
Right. Yeah, yeah, and it's giving people a chance to do that for once. Um, oh yeah, I wanted to say just with the language thing, and I'm sure there's probably better historical examples, but I know the Soviet Union maybe had mixed results on this, but like there was an effort to like kind of welcome in like all these. Russia's a huge place, like all the different kind of cultures that existed across it, and allow like their them to participate in their own languages and all of that. And I think it is insane that Spanish is treated like it's spoken by a few people in the US or something. Like it's the
Right. Right.
second official language. It should be. Um and because I've run into it at work, like you were mentioning some like Andover is some of the like Boston suburbs. I work with all of these towns at work because I do instrument rentals. So it's all the kids in the music programs, rent from us, and there are whole towns. Like I mean, Lynn, I think
Oh yeah.
Everett, like it's all Spanish speakers, and I feel like an idiot when I'm like, oh, hold on, my coworker speaks Spanish, and I started picking it up again with Duolingo because I took Spanish in like middle school.
Right.
Picked up what and I was just like, I have to learn how to speak this. I don't want to be the old guy in this country when like half the people here speak Spanish, being like, I don't know what you're saying, like it's let's um you know uh, uh meet them halfway, because all of the like every Spanish speaker I've met in this country is knows English or is trying to learn English. They um you gotta fucking like give people a break. Like, yeah, take the test in Spanish. It's fine. Like they're
Yeah.
not gonna nothing's
I
gonna
know.
happen, I promise.
Yeah. Sometimes I get embarrassed that I'm not fluent. I'm like, I need to get after it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Since starting
Straight
it,
up, it's like I'm embarrassed. Yeah, it's true.
yeah, and I've gotten to the point I can like I've had successful conversations where I'm like stumbling through in broken Spanish, but ultimately understanding occurs, and I'm like, yes, it
Yeah,
is.
I mean, I
It's
grew up in a Spanish household, so I feel that. I didn't really like I I felt like I didn't really learn Spanish until I went door knocking and I went to the streets and I was
mm,
stumbling for like a good 6 months. And then like, I don't know, somewhere along the line I was like, holy shit, now I know Spanish.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I also, so I took German in high school. I started learning that again, and I was like, I think my German teacher in high school way overstated how similar German and English are, because
Yeah.
they definitely are. Like you can tell they're related, but like German's wild, whereas Spanish, I'm like, this more or less lines up. Like there's a lot of similar words. Like it's not the
Yes.
worst. switch over. But yeah, I don't know. I think I've reached the end of what I was looking for from you guys. So if there's anything else that you want to put out there, websites, I'm sure, and all of that.
Sure. I will just throw it out real quick. I know you have another call. It's BJ Griffin, the number 4, MASS.com. And you can hit me up there. You can find me on Facebook very easily. Just search Brandon James Griffin for U.S. Senate. WorkersPartyMA.org is the party site. And I don't know if this is going to work.
Actually, a little further back was clearer. A little more. Oh, the QR code.
It's okay if
Okay.
it doesn't
Well,
come through. Don't worry about it.
all right. I'll put some links in the YouTube
fine.
thing, and yeah.
And thank you, Joe. This has been a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if anybody has any questions, reach out to us, reach out to the Workers' Party. We'd be happy to answer any questions. If you live in the area of Western Mass, you'll probably see a lot of our signature gatherers out here over in Northampton at the Cooperative, in Holyoke, and both Stop and Shops. You either find myself most of the time, but I can't be at 2 places at once. I'll probably be at one or the other, or you'll find our our amazing signature gatherers. Big shout out to Ray from Smith College in Boston, who's gathering a couple Smith College kids to really challenge Elizabeth Warren and support Brandon and Nye's campaign. And mine is a little bit more low stakes, but nonetheless, I'm here to support, and I'm here to do whatever I can. I'm sure we're going to get more than 8,000 signatures, more than 10,000 signatures for Brandon's campaign in a jiffy. And really propose a challenge to the system. And lastly, I'll end off on this note. If anybody is looking to run, if you have, if you're a socialist worker, now's the time. There's no greater time like now. We're coming to a point in this world and in this system that it's starting to show the contradictions, that it's starting to show workers that it's not really for us. Inflation is rising, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And go out there and spout these beliefs. It comes close to home. This isn't fair, right? That this system treats us like how it does.
Right.
So join the Workers' Party. Support our candidates, support the program if you like it. Join us. We'd love to have you at any of our local meetings. We just had a new local over in Cambridge. And hopefully on its way is Worcester local, and soon on its way. Here's to many, many more candidates throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and even a Workers' Party in the United States nationally.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Yep. Yeah. So if you're not in Massachusetts, you can obviously support the Workers' Party online.
Start your own. Send us funds, because I need money. You know how much postage stamps are? How many letters I've spent? It gets done.
Or even start your own Workers' Party. I know it's a big process, but we're here to help. We did it alone, but you don't have to. We're here for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally. Very cool. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next time on Radicalize Me.